All right, you slipped and fell on ice. You're banged up. You might be out of work. You're accumulating medical bills because you got some injuries. You want to know what to do next. Well, stick around in this video and I'm going to give you the game-changing legal tips on what to do to protect your rights in the event that you slip and fall on ice and you get hurt. All right, the first and most important question is going to be, what were you doing when you slipped and fell on ice? Your rights are going to be a little bit different if you were within the scope of your employment, if you were working at the time that you slipped and fell on ice. But irrespective of whether you were working or not working when you slipped and fell on ice, here's the most important things that you need to know, okay? Your footwear is the best piece of evidence that you can preserve. What's really important is that whatever you were wearing on your feet at the time that you slipped and fell on ice, you preserve in the condition the shoes were in at the time that you slipped and fell. This is definitely an inconvenience. You have no idea how many times my clients have said, "Are you kidding me? I got to give you my shoes?" Yes. The shoes that you were wearing when you slipped and fell are very important. Just like in the video that I talked about slipping and falling in a grocery store, it's just like that with slipping and falling on ice outside. Your shoes are an important piece of evidence. Were you wearing work boots? Were you wearing flip-flops? Okay? What were you wearing at the time you slipped and fell on ice? So, the condition of the sole, whether it was appropriate footwear for outside, that's all going to play into the question of whether the defendant, the owner of the property, or wherever you slipped and fell on ice, is going to be responsible in full or in part. The next thing you definitely need to do, because, folks, snow and ice melts. Okay? It doesn't take the same form day by day. If you have a snowfall or ice forming and you slip and fall on it, if you don't take evidence of what the condition of the ground was when you slipped and fell, it's not going to be the same in the coming days, weeks, or months. So take your evidence collecting device, your cell phone. We all have one in our pocket. All of them are smartphones. Just take it out. Take some pictures, take some videos. We all have the capability to be our own investigators in these cases. That's a crucial thing to do. Even if you're banged up and you're not really focused on bringing a personal injury claim, protect your rights. Take out your evidence collecting device and collect the damn evidence, all right? The next thing that you need to know is you've got to get medical treatment, all right? And before you go and you get in your car or drive somewhere or walk somewhere to get medical treatment, take a look around. Were you in a commercial business district? There is likely cameras on every building. If somebody caught you slipping and falling, there's going to be no question about what happened later on down the road when you're pursuing the personal injury claim. We've all heard about frivolous lawsuits, about people making up slip and fall cases. And it doesn't happen nearly as much as the insurance companies want you to believe. But the fact of the matter is, if there's a video, no one can doubt you. It's right there on film. So look around. Take note of what properties have cameras. In today's day and age, almost everyone has these Ring cameras on their houses. They have surveillance cameras on their businesses, the front doors, the back doors, interior and exterior. If you slip and fall on ice and you are anywhere near a building, it is a distinct possibility that someone caught that on tape. So figure that out, write down the address, take a note for yourself, so that you can go get that evidence later. These 3 steps that you could be taking, from preserving your footwear, to taking photos and videos of the ice and snow that you fell on, to finding videos of the incident that's surrounding buildings and surveillance systems, are huge, huge, huge in the world of slip and fall on ice cases. Of course, as I began telling you a minute ago, the next thing you've got to do is get medical treatment. If you are injured, get to a doctor. Call an ambulance, use that phone. I call it the evidence collecting device. It also happens to be how you call first responders. Call them. Get your medical care. If you don't need an ambulance, get in your car, drive to the ER or an urgent care facility. Get treatment, get it on record. Okay? It's really important that you do those things. Once those things are done, you should just call an attorney and we can take it from there. And then all you have to worry about once your attorney is involved is getting better. And it's already enough stress on your life to worry about what happens when you're injured. You might be out of work. You might have to arrange childcare. You might have to pay medical bills out of pocket. These are things that are huge inconveniences, at least, and at most, they can be devastating. So take some stress off of your shoulders. Go to a personal injury attorney like me that doesn't charge you hourly, that you sign a contingent fee agreement, that doesn't require you to put any money up front, and we will take the stress off of you. You can focus on your medical recovery and taking care of your needs and your families, and we can take care of everything else. Now, if you were working when you slipped and fell on ice, it's really important that you also notify your employer, okay? A first report of injury when you are in the scope of your employment and you get hurt, a written notice to the employer that you're injured is imperative. It can be done by a simple text message to your supervisor. It can be an email to the HR department. It can come in a number of ways. A lot of employers have you fill out an incident form. Get it in writing that you were injured, how you were injured, and on the job. Those are really important steps. Now let's take this to the next level. Here's some things that you should know, generally speaking, about slip and falls on ice. In a lot of municipalities, cities and towns, they have an ordinance, which is their local laws. And the ordinance usually says that people are responsible to shovel snow on sidewalks that are adjacent to their private properties. This was an effort by a lot of municipalities to save money through their departments of public works so that the city sidewalks didn't all have to be remediated by the DPW. While they still might do some of that in the downtown areas, if you have a sidewalk immediately next to your private property, you are responsible for shoveling that snow, for salting and sanding, and remediating any ice and snow danger. Ice and snow remediation, mitigation of danger is really important in this context. If you are walking down a sidewalk in a city or town next to a private property and they did not shovel, so you decide you're going to veer into the street, which has been plowed because there's no snow on the street, and then you hit by a car. Well, guess what? You not only have a case against the driver of the vehicle potentially, you also have a case against the property owner that didn't remediate the danger on the sidewalk. Add another layer to this. If they do shovel, and then there's melting, and then it puddles up and it freezes, they still have that extra layer of responsibility to make sure that that ice is remediated with salt or sand or any other type of effort to make sure it's safe to walk on. So if you slip and fall on ice, whether you are on a public sidewalk adjacent to a private property, or you are on a private property, such as a friend or relative even, the things that you need to know are that they have a responsibility when it snows to remediate that danger. They have a responsibility when there's icy conditions to remediate that danger, and that these types of claims are covered by property insurance, like homeowners insurance policies, or even on commercial properties, the property insurance. So you're not going to be going after the individuals per se, you're going to be pursuing a claim against their insurers. So like we talked about at the beginning, it's important to note the following. If you slip and fall on ice, you've got to do the following. Take pictures or videos of the condition you fell on and the condition it was in at the time. Preserve your footwear. That's going to be imperative. Preserving your footwear and taking photos are the bare minimum. Then look around. Are there any surveillance cameras on commercial businesses? Are there any ring cameras on houses? Take note of any such opportunity to capture the incident as it was, because those types of footage usually copy over themselves in a certain amount of time, so you have a limited amount of time to get it. Obviously, if there's witnesses, try to get their information because they saw what happened. Get to a doctor and call the lawyer. Let's talk about some examples of slipping and falling on ice. I recently represented a man who was walking down a main street in a small city, and what had happened was that it had snowed a few days earlier, and then the weather warmed up. And when the weather warmed up, the snow on the roofs melted and obviously went into the gutters and the downspouts. Now, the property in question had sort of old, rotten, wooden gutters, so they were leaking, and they were overflowing, and the downspouts were clogged. So the water was spilling over the gutters onto the sidewalk for the length of the property in question, and the downspouts were draining some water and it was letting out onto that same sidewalk. When the melting happens, you have to watch out because the next thing that happens overnight is that the melting freezes. And once the melting froze, this gentleman was walking down the street early in the morning, minding his own business, wearing appropriate footwear. Nobody had salted or sanded the sidewalk. He slipped and fell and he broke his leg in multiple places. He was out of work for several months. He had a surgery, and we brought this action not against the city who owned the sidewalk, but against the private property owner who failed to remediate the sidewalk immediately adjacent to the property. And we were successful in making a very significant recovery for our client because, like we talked about earlier in this video, if you own a property in most cities and towns, there are laws locally that require you to be the person that shovels, salts, and sands that public sidewalk that's immediately adjacent to your property. And if your property, in this case gutters and downspouts, creates a danger on that public sidewalk, you are responsible for it. So be careful. Watch the melting and the refreezing. That's often where we see the slips and falls on ice. In addition, we've represented a young woman who was working in an office park. She drove to work early in the morning. She got there around 7:30. She got out of the car. The property owner, which her employer leased office space from, had not yet remediated the snow and ice from the previous day's snowstorms. So she got out. She was walking from her car into her place of employment, and she slipped and fell and was injured. A few different layers to this case. One, she has a third-party negligence case against the property owner for not remediating the snow and ice damage. Two, because she had arrived at work and she was walking into her place of employment pursuant to the going and coming rule, she had a workers' compensation claim against her employer for being injured in the scope of her duties, incidental to her work, walking into the office. And then, because she had the workers' comp claim and her medical bills were paid by her workers' comp carrier, the employer's workers' comp carrier, and the time out of work she missed was paid at least partially by her workers' compensation benefits, she brought that third-party claim against the negligent property owner, and the negligent property owner not only had to pay her a generous settlement, but also had to reimburse the workers' comp insurance company for all the bills that they paid as a result of the negligence of the property owner for failing to get rid of the snow and ice. So I tell you these stories to tell you the following. It's never as simple as you believe. A lot of people live by this mantra, oh, well, watch where you're walking. I'm sorry. That's just not how it works, okay? We all have responsibilities to each other in society, and we all have to remediate dangers that we have on our properties, especially when people we know are going to be walking on those properties or adjacent to them. So if you slipped and fell on snow and ice, whether you were working or whether you were not, go to that attorney. Make sure your rights are protected. If you want to learn more about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the personal injury industry, subscribe to my channel, come back and watch more videos. And I'll give you more game-changing tips on what to do when you get hurt, whether you're working or not.